I'm CK. A little while ago, I can never be quite certain because when I record them and when they release, the videos may have a different time, so I can't say like last week because it might be months. I posted a poll on the channel asking if you'd like to see some breadboarding. Now, more than 30 people replied, which is decent for a poll on Facebook, and more than 90% said yes, they would. So we're occasionally going to throw in some breadboarding. Now, I want to be clear that I am not a breadboarding expert. I haven't breadboarded anything since the late 60s, early 70s, and that was prior to integrated circuits and a lot of inexpensive semiconductors. So I'll be learning along the way with you, which will be kind of fun. And I decided to start with this one. It's a breadboarding kit. I forget where I found it. If I keep doing this, I'm sure I can find it again and get some more. This is from Microkits.net, so that's where I can find it. This is a Theremin breadboarding kit. I think it comes with its own little breadboard, and it's got 3 AAA batteries with it, so it looks like it's got everything you need to do to have a breadboard, power it, and all the components to make a little Theremin. So that's what we're going to do this evening, and I hope you enjoy the video. Here's the kit. This is not part of the kit, that's part of a cat toy I took apart last night to give the cats a new cat toy, and this resistor is just lying around on the desk. I forget what that's from, but that's okay. Microkits, Theremin electronic kit, music and sound from electrical fields. We've done a couple of Theremins, even though this one looks like a real one because it's got both a pitch and a volume antenna, which I have on my Big Briar from Moog. The other ones just have pitch. Age 10 plus, 30 parts, no tools, assembled in the USA, 3 AA batteries included. It's got wire, microcontroller, wire, LED, resistor, speaker, capacitor, and probably a diode. And it talks about Leo Theremin inventing a Theremin. By the way, if you're ever interested in listening to a virtuoso Theremin performer, search YouTube or online for Clara Rockmore. She was the premier Theremin player, and Bob Moog actually did a little documentary about her when she was in her later years, but she still had her original Leo Theremin in her apartment in New York, and gosh, could she still play. So if you're interested in watching someone play beautifully on a Theremin, look for Clara Rockmore. If I remember, I'll try and put a link in the description. Everything you need is in the box, including batteries, which is really nice. This place is from Charlottesville, Virginia. That's nice. Open it up, take the sleeve off, lift it up. I don't know which way it opens. I guess it opens this way. Here we've got an instruction manual. All multiple stages. Greetings, I'm Micro. I'll be helping you build your circuit. Well, thank you, Micro. Tells you what a Theremin is. Tells you about what the breadboard does. Power and then we go step by step through stuff. So we've got a small breadboard. Nothing too particularly outstanding about this. It's a typical breadboard, even though it's very tiny. Looks like it's got some double-sided sticky foam on the back, which we may play with later. Here's a battery box and the batteries, and they're actually they're name brand batteries. That's unusual for kits. And in here we've got one transistor, a 3904, some wire, some resistors, an LED, and as you may be able to tell in here, the leads on all the components are already bent, like the resistors and the capacitor, I mean just the resistors actually, to fit in the breadboard. Then here we've got 2 more things. Let me get this open. I mean, not 2 more, more than 2 more. This is the power bridge that will go over here and provide the power to the power rails on the outside of the breadboard. And that's the connector that goes to our little battery box, which will be very handy. This even has a power on-off switch, which is nice. Let me put that in the parts bin. Then we've got a couple of things here. So we've got micro, which I assume means microcontroller, and this says tick, and I'm going because they're covering up the part numbers of the chips with these, but it looks like they peel off pretty nice. So I'm going to peel this off just to take a look and see what this is. The TLC556CN. I'm not sure what that is. I'll look it up in the little break coming up. And this is, I wouldn't be surprised if this is not an Atmel microcontroller. It is. No, it's looks like Motorola. Motorola 12F1571. Not familiar with that. Then we've got the 2 wires that are going to make up the 2 antennas, the pitch and the volume antenna. And then we've got a bunch of little stickers. That's nice for a youngster, or even for me. I'll put them on my sticker wall. Guarantee your parts, and thank you from Micro and Dave. Okay, so that's all the bits and pieces. I'll recycle the cameras and we'll get started putting this thing together and going through the manual and seeing if we learn as we go along. Time to put this thing together. Now, I did look up the 2 data sheets, and the 556CN, which is this one, is a dual timer unit, high precision. It's like a 555, but it's a 556. It's a little more precise. Always go get the data sheets on chips, because it'll tell you everything. It'll show you a little sample implementation, and you can learn a good bit. You can see what all the pins are for. And if you want to do it, you just type in the part number like this one, TL0556CN, space data sheet in the search bar in any of your browsers, and you'll probably see 4 or 5 of them come up. And then the PIC 12F1571 or 2, that's the same for each of them, is a little microcontroller. And what it does is it outputs a PWM signal or a square wave signal. And this one is very low power. Interesting. So it's got, that'll be generating the sound that we hear. And if you look at the data sheet, well, actually we won't look at the data sheet on that one because I don't want to drag it over, but we'll open up the little booklet. And as we can see, we've got all the parts, even though they really do. I'm going to talk to him. I think I mentioned this. I want to make sure he gets the part numbers of the ICs so you can look them up. Then we're going to do power, audio, then pitch and volume. And then it describes what a theremin is and how a breadboard works. And then we're going to do the power and the LED. Then if I can get the pages right, then the audio side of things. Then the pitch antenna, then the volume antenna, and then we're all done. But at the back here, we've got a schematic, which is really nice. So as you're going along, or if you're interested in what's going on, you can go ahead and trace it all out for yourself. So we can, I'm going to go through it right now just because we can. Here's the power circuit, ground, 100 nanofarad cap, and then the power source, the battery pack that we're going to be using, and voltage out. Up here is the 555, so that's the timer, and the pitch antenna comes into the trigger and threshold that you can set with the resistor, and then the output goes into the clock side, the clock 1 side of the microcontroller. And then on the other side we've got the volume, same way, trigger comes in here, and the output goes into the T0 clock. And here's where the pulse width, the little square wave, comes out and goes over to over here, where it goes into the input for the transistor, which is going to flow power through the speaker and make noise. So that's what we're doing. I may take a break once I get this all set up to set up an oscilloscope trace, but I'm not certain yet. Depends on how long this goes. It shouldn't go very long. So we're going to start on step 1, and I've got all the parts tossed around in a parts tray. So we're going to do the microchip first, and the eyes on the chip are actually covering up the notch, because every IC has either a notch or a dot, and this one actually has both, a notch and a dot showing you where pin 1 is. And we want to make sure the eye is all over the notch, and this is going to go on row 11 to 14, like so, straddling the center dividing line. I hope I'm not getting my head in the shot when I lean in. And it just presses in there, very simply. Now we're going to take a capacitor, one of our, what are these? Should be decoupling type caps. Yeah, they're 104, they're 100 nanofarad. 1 0 and 4 more zeros, so that makes 100 nanofarad. And that's going to go at row 20 between positive and negative on the power rail to condition the power a little bit. Now we're going to take 2 orange wires, and we're going to go from J14 to the positive rail, like so, and as you can see, that's feeding pin 1, because we always count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that gives us the positive side of the power. Now we're going to go to the other side, to A14, to the negative rail. Now, of course, make sure you've got the positive side going into the red side, the positive side, and the negative side, which is on pin 8, going in to the blue negative or ground rail. So that's initial setup. Now we're going to put the power bridge on. These are kind of neat. I've got a couple of these, because I have done some breadboarding off camera, but not on camera. And that powers these 2 side power rails, and you can see it says plus here, goes on the red rail, minus goes on the blue rail, plus on the red, minus on the blue. Always double check. And now we're going to take our LED and put that in. Now, 3 ways to tell which is the positive and which is the negative lead. If both leads are still unclipped, the long lead is positive, short lead is negative. second. If you look, let me see if I can bring this up so you can see better. Okay, that's good. You can see inside through the plastic, you can see there's a large piece and a small piece. The large piece is always the negative or cathode side. Small piece is the anode side. The other thing is all LEDs have a flat spot, or not all of them. Most LEDs have a flat spot that's over the negative rail. Often you can't tell where it is, and what I do when I'm not sure is I kind of roll it across my workbench, and as you can see it stopped like that with the short leg down. So that's good. That tells us that's where the flat side is and the negative. And we want to put this into J12, and we want to put the short leg into the negative side. Kind of here. So that's on pin 3. I'm going to take a quick excursion to the back so we can see that is RA4. I don't really know what RA4, it comes out RA4 and to ground. I'm going to take a quick look. I may have a little camera skip here as I look that up. RA4 is PW pulse width 2 or clock out, so when this is thumping, this will probably be blinking. I don't know for sure yet, of course. Now we're going to get our battery holder. Where did I put the battery holder? Oh, there it is. Slide that back. Use their AA batteries. And now slide the cover back on, up, and get the wires caught. Come on, wires, come out. Now we've got that. And we're going to plug it in, making sure the little power switch is off before we do so. Let me move over it a little bit. Now, as we put this in, we want to make sure the red wire is to the left. And if you try to do it the other way, it won't actually go in unless you really, really gorilla force it. So just don't do that. If you're forcing a connector, then something's probably not right. So slide that in there. That went on just fine. Now they tell us when we power this up, we should get the LED to come on. Up, and there it goes. And since there's nothing triggering the microcontroller, it's not flashing. Turn that back off. Now we're going to start really getting crazy, and we're going to put the audio connected, and we'll take another one of the little capacitors, B14 to B15. As you can see, it's crossing from the power to the row 15, which we'll probably connect other stuff to in a minute. And then we're going to get the 560 ohm resistor, which is green, blue, brown. And we're going to put that C12 to C15. That's good. And I think, oh, we got to get power to it. Now we're going to take the transistor. Where did that go? And we want to make sure we get the flat side facing the correct way, which will be away from the IC, and that's going to go into D14, D15, and D16. So as we go back to the schematic again, you can see that that's coming from the pulse width modulation signal, because that's the signal we're going to be amplifying. And then so that comes around, goes through that resistor, goes to the base, and then in as the input there, and then this will power it up, amplify it. So that goes there, and then that's where you can see the capacitor and the resistor that we're talking about. Purple wire from A16 to A23. Orange wire from J23 to plus. So same thing as before. These aren't straight because if you wanted to have a straight one, you'd have to have a real tiny jumper. They exist. I have some, but this is fine too. Now we're going to put the speaker on board, and that's going to go in E23 and G23. Don't know which way this goes. I think it'll go that way just fine. This is, you can't quite see the pins, but it's easy enough to figure it out. Okay, now let me bring the mic down and we'll turn this on. It should make a little noise. There it goes. So that's a square wave coming out. It's not modulated. So it's going to be very monotone, as you can see, and that's pretty neat. And that's what I actually want to put on the scope. I'll figure that out in a little bit. But that's not too interesting. Now, I've turned the power off again, of course. And now, we're going to put tick, which is the timer chip. Double checking my notches, because I did pull it apart. Oh no, he didn't do that. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought he had the eyes on the notch side, but he doesn't. You have to pay attention to the eyes because they're on different ends. Don't rely on the notch. And if you look at the drawing, you can see there's a notch there, and the tick notch goes up. I don't really like that, particularly, well, 1 to 7, column E and F. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily do that. I think it'd be, and again, this I'm thinking out loud because I want to give them feedback when I get done. I think talking about the notch or the dot on the chip is more instructive than simply putting a sticker on there, because nobody's going to learn from just a sticker. You learn by knowing that the notches are important. Now, J1 to positive, because we want to power the chip on that side. There are 2 timers on here. So that goes to pin 16. If I could count, that would be useful. Orange wire from J5 to plus. So we're powering both of the timers. I'm going a different angle than he's going, but that stuff doesn't matter really. Orange wire from A7 to plus, to minus. Don't get that wrong, buddy. And I think that'll be a common ground, so I don't think we need to worry about having 2 of them. Common ground for the IC. Yellow wire from G3 to G7. Like so. So we're taking pin 3, pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, pin 12 to pin 8 on that one. And then a purple wire from H6 to H13. So that's the output of that, which is going into the trigger on the microprocessor, just like so. Now we're going to get a yellow, violet, orange 47K, yellow, violet, orange. Now I know what these are because I've got them memorized, because when I was learning my electronics in the late 60s, early 70s, we didn't have all the tools we have now. But one thing you can always do to double check, a couple of things. First, you can take your resistor and use your meter, because you should have a meter. You don't need to have something like this fluke, but there are lots of good $25 to $30 meters out there in the world. So we'll connect it to the two leads, and as you can see, that's 46.4, which is close to 47. It's within tolerance. So that's one way you can check. Now the other way you can check is to get a little calculator. This calculator I built from a kit. It's on my channel. I will try and remember to post a link to it. It's a very handy thing. One of the main things I do with it is, this is a resistor calculator. So we've got a 4-band color bands, and it's yellow, violet, orange. So yellow, violet, orange is 47K. So you don't have to think too hard. You don't have to memorize the colors, because that's so 70s. I shouldn't have had to memorize colors. I3 to I6, I3 to I6, okay? So let's take a look at what we've done so far there based on the schematic. So we've got so that resistor we just put in here is the 47K, which is going, it's blocking from going to the output. The output's coming over it, but it's giving a bias on there, and it's jumping from pin 9 to 3. I wonder why it's going to 3. Oh, I see, because he's going to trigger on that too. Okay. So that's good. Now we're going to take our wire and we're going to make our first antenna. And that's going to go to, where is it? J3. I'm going to put a little bit of a loopy kind of thing on there. I think this is the pitch wire. Now we'll give that a try. I'll move the microphone down. Now let me move my hand close to the wire. So it's changing the capacitance value, which is going into trigger. Closer, and the LED is responding to that. So let's turn that back off, because we're not quite done yet. That's the noise making part of it. Now we'll do the volume part of it. And we're basically doing the same thing we did on this side. We're going to do on this side, connecting let me show you again. We're going to connect the volume antenna to a 68K resistor, which will go to output and trigger, and then and threshold, and the output goes to the T0 clock for the amplitude of the PWM signal. So we can do that really quickly. And we've got what? We've got one resistor, a 68K. I mean, some of them, the color bands you'll get to know because they're so common. B2 to B5. I mean, like 1K, 10K, and 100K resistors, you'll probably learn their color bands pretty quickly because you'll see them so often. B2 to B5, get in, there, okay. Yellow wire from A4 to plus, again we're powering the second side of this timer chip. A4 to positive, and D2 to D6. And then an orange one from C5 to C8. Oops, I didn't get it quite in right. Then we're going to jump from that same connection on B8 to B11, because that's sending the signal into the PWM generator, pulse width modification generator. Now we'll do the second antenna. And where is this going to plug into? It's going to plug into A2. So this antenna, the capacitance being generated between your hand and this piece of wire is creating the frequency of the pulse width, and this one's creating the amplitude of the pulse width. And this one's creating, I put my mic down, I hope you could hear what I was just saying. So let's try it now with both antennas. And you see when I get my hand very close or touching this one, it cuts off all the sound. When I pull it away, that's pretty sensitive. I mean, I've only got like a ½ inch or so of volume control, but that's what we do. So the way you use this as a performer is you'll set a note. I mean, you'll set a note by moving your hand close to the wire, and you know through months and months of practice how far away you want to be. Then pull your hand away from the volume note or antenna and put it back to stop it. Move your hand. Or you can do slides, and you can slide both the pitch and the volume, and that's what we're doing. So let me turn this off. So that's all we're doing. I mean, that is, in the end, we're done. This is what a theremin works like, and we can see by tracing the signal paths what everything is doing. And that's very neat, but I'm gonna, so you could stop watching if you want now. It's a very good kit. I highly recommend this. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a couple of minutes and reconfigure my cameras, and we'll show you some oscilloscope traces on this. Back in a bit. So we're ready to go with a little more experimentation here. And as you can see, here's my oscilloscope lead, and I've taken from the ground, I'm going into, I probably got, no, it's fine. Ground going into the 23 line, so you can pick up one side of the speaker. And the other lead is going into the positive, because that's what's going into the speaker on the other side, or coming out of the speaker on the other side. Now let me bring the scope up on the screen. I will slide this over a little bit so I can get both things in at once. Now power it up, and there we go. And as you can see, we've got a square wave going on. Up and down, it's a little raggedy. That's not, I wouldn't use that in a musical instrument, but it's still dandy for what our goal is. And now I'll bring my hand close to the pitch, and you'll see the distance between those square waves shrink. As the frequency changes. So a very graphic illustration of what we're doing. Now I'll move my hand to the volume antenna, and you'll see the wave shrink down vertically until it just goes into mush. Yeah, as I said, this is the volume antenna is a little more goosey than I would like. It doesn't have all that much. But that's what's happening. That's your pitch changing, and that's your volume changing. And I hope you enjoyed the video. So we're ready to go with a little more experimentation here. And as you can see, here's my oscilloscope lead, and I've taken from the ground, I'm going into, I probably got, no, it's fine. Ground going into the 23 line, so you can pick up one side of the speaker. And the other lead is going into the positive, because that's what's going into the speaker on the other side, or coming out of the speaker on the other side. Now let me bring the scope up on the screen. I will slide this over a little bit so I can get both things in at once. Now I'll power it up, and there we go. And as you can see, we've got a square wave going on. Up and down, it's a little raggedy. That's not, I wouldn't use that in a musical instrument, but it's still dandy for what our goal is. And now I'll bring my hand close to the pitch, and you'll see the distance between those square waves shrink. As the frequency changes. So a very graphic illustration of what we're doing. Now I'll move my hand to the volume antenna, and you'll see the wave shrink down vertically until it just goes into mush. Yeah, as I said, this is the volume antenna is a little more goosey than I would like. It doesn't have all that much. But that's what's happening. That's your pitch changing, and that's your volume changing. And I hope you enjoyed the video.